You work in IT. You've been home for the last maybe month and a half. You still do your work, obviously, and you're able to do some of your work because you're able to connect into your employer's network through the Cisco AnyConnect VPN client. I'm going to use Cisco in this case. So you're able to connect in, do your work, and looks like your machine is part of the building's network. It's working fine for you. Well, what happens if you need to connect a machine to the building's network and there's no OS on there? You cannot connect to the building's network without the Cisco AnyConnect client, right? Well, today I'm going to show you a setup that I created to allow any computer physically connected to one of a created network here so that it looks like it's on the building's network, my employer's network, without running a client. Kind of funny enough, with a lot of stuff on this channel that people have been watching, this one also involves a Dell Optiplex, right? Of course it has to. Dell Optiplex 755. I'll go through some of the specs. I'll do a screen recording of it because I'm not going to do this on the handheld for a lot of the stuff, which I think you'll appreciate. But this is a machine, it's about, 12 years old. All I needed to do was connect up another network card to it, and this has turned into a gateway to my employer's VPN network. So without further ado, I will show you the configuration. First off, a little information about the computer that I'm using. Like the description, space-saving computer. This is LSHW. So I'm actually SSHing into the machine because I didn't want to record just another monitor. So anyway, Optiplex 755. Motherboard. Here we go. It's an E6750. It's still a Core 2 Duo. It's in that range that I've put the Core 2 Quads in, but no, not this one. This one doesn't need it. Besides, this machine was just sitting and doing nothing for a while. This thing has 4 gigs of RAM. It has 4 sticks of 1. It's overkill, basically, for this application. We can see it just has the onboard video. Here we go. Here's the onboard network. It's a gigabit network on board, which doesn't really make too much of a difference because you'll see after all of these USBs. Here's my network. It's just a PCI card. It's an old D-Link, which uses a VIA chip, and it's 100 megabit. You know what? It really doesn't matter because there's the switch that is connected to only does 100 megabit anyway. Besides, I am pulling at most 10 megabit a second, I think, from my employer. And the last thing that I added to this, here's the disk. It's an 80 gig SATA drive. It was the smallest SATA drive that I had, so I just decided to throw that in there, and it's probably it is an very old drive. It's 80 gigs, so you know. The thing is, if it dies, it dies. It's not, because this whole setup is quite simple. One of the first thing that you want to see, I'm going to be referencing, or I used a lot of the information from the link is going to be in the description below about set up your Debian router slash gateway in 10 minutes. Now this is for basically a public and private IP. This thing is actually inside my network, which is kind of strange. So there's like a couple gateways within my network, but we'll see how this all works out. I might be getting a little ahead of myself, but if we do an ifconfig on this system, next I'd like to point out the configuration of our network interfaces that we have here. In the tutorial that I'm put down in the description, it's using EN0 or no ETH0 and ETH1. Newer versions of Linux will have the predictable, I forget the exact name of the type of naming convention. It's called like predictable something, where it actually tells you where physically the card is in your system. So in my situation, EMP0S25 is going to reference ETH0 in the tutorial, and my EMP3S0, which is the added 100 megabit card, is going to be ETH1. So the ETH0 or EMP025, EMP0S25 is the outside, quote unquote, which is still inside my network, and the EMP3S0 is the internal, or quote unquote, my VPN network inside my home. I did not word that correctly 100%, but I hope you understand what I'm talking about there. This is the loopback. Everybody has that. And this is a little ahead of myself because I'm already connected to the network. And so what happens when you start up the VPN client, it creates this tunnel, or TUN0 interface, and that is important. That is going to be a key difference between what is on the website that's going to be down in the description versus to what we actually have working now. So the first thing that you need to do, there's a couple things that you would need to install. You need to install DNSMask and DNSMASQ. So in this Debian installation, it's apt-get install. So this in DNSMask. Install IP tables persistence. So because we need to change some stuff with the firewall. And the last thing that you need to install, obviously, is OpenConnect. So OpenConnect is an Open AnyConnect compatible. So if your company runs a Cisco firewall with VPN access, OpenConnect should actually connect to it properly. So first thing that you would probably want to do is install OpenConnect. Make sure that you can connect to your VPN correctly first. So after that point, just follow that tutorial at installing DNSMask, and I will show you my DNSMask config. And EMP3S0, that is my internal network, is listening on itself. DNSMask also is a DHCP server. So right here, it's very easy to say DHCP range. I'm creating a 10.0.0 network because it's not going to interfere with my 192.168 or .1 that I have, and 0 that I have at the other networks that are already created. DNSMask also works as a DNS server. Well, it's kind of like in its name. Now, this normally you would not need something like this, but there is a situation where the way that I have my OpenConnect set up, it interferes with the resolve.conf file. Normally, DNSMask will take the DNS server that is in your resolve.conf file and that is what DNSMask looks to when it needs to resolve a host name. Um, by default, DNSMask, when running as a DHCP server, will give your machine itself DNS, that is the DNS server for that network that you're creating. So long and short of it, if I did not have the separate resolve.conf file that I put in /ppp whatever, my resolve.conf file within the system, my etc resolve.conf, is my DNS server. This resolve.conf references my company's DNS server. So that is one thing that I needed to change from the tutorial because, well, there's a reason why, and I'll get to that at a little later on. Hopefully, I'm not too scattered. I apologize for that. So there is the next part about is enable IP forwarding, and it is basically just uncomment that line. So yeah, easy. Now, okay, now we're getting into the good stuff. Let's look at the rules. Now, the link below will tell you to use your, well, it's going to be EN0 for post routing, for NATing, masquerading as, it's going to go in from your EN, well, ETH1, which is a different name right now, going to go at ETH0. We do not want that. You know how the VPN connection creates a new interface called TON0? Yeah, you're pushing all of that network, that data from the secondary card. It's going to go through the tunnel, and that's it. That's all you needed to change. We have different changes here. It's like a loopback is all fine. I'm accepting port 22, so that's how I'm able to connect into this right now. And all the established connections, okay, yes, it will accept traffic, and then everything else it will drop. But this is that is the key. That is key right there. If anything else, that is what you need to change with that link down below. So once that's all set, and you have the rules all saved and everything else, what you can do is when the machine starts, you can log in with OpenConnect, and that's fine. And if you do it that way, your OpenConnect client will modify your etc/resolve.conf file to reflect your company's DNS server. What I did, enabled to just make this completely idiot proof, well, it doesn't really need to be idiot proof, but in order to make this as seamless as possible, that when you just turn on the system, you're connected, it works as basically an appliance at this point, is I started OpenConnect as a service, and that's going to be the second link down in the description. It's going to link to a discourse.osmc.tv. Somebody's asking me how to do it. I'm using the example given by NVEC, which is back from April 17th, but that works fine today. That's exactly what you need to do. And actually, I will pause this for a second because I need to change some variables in what my service description looks like at this point. Hold on. Alright, so usernames, passwords, and VPN client, or no, server, is changed to protect, well, my identity and my network security anyway. So you create a service, and that link down there, basically is exactly what you need to do. The only thing I need to do is I have a separate group in our configuration. And what this does is after the network is started up, it starts up OpenConnect. Now, security purposes, yes, you are saving your password, clear text. All right. Then again, this machine is completely behind, you know, my firewall. It has its own fire. It's the only connections to it are going to be from me. So that's fine. So basically, this is. But like I said, this thing has a problem, and this is the reason why in the DNS mask config file, I needed to set the other name server, because if you set it up, what I found, this may be just a bug or whatever here, if you started up OpenConnect as a service, it does not change your /resolve.conf file. And so I had it connected, and then it started up as a service, and then it never changed back to my regular DNS server. So when sorry about that. So when I am actually working right now. So when I actually try to connect to the VPN server, it was looking at my works VPN server. Hope that makes sense. So in your etsy/resolve.conf file, that is your normal DNS server. In the etsy/ppp/resolve.conf file, that is your company's VPN server, and reference DNS mask from there. I'm going to go see who actually chatted me in, and I will continue wrapping this video up. And I'm going to exit this and do not save. Alright, so back to the camera. So after the secondary network interface that we are, that is our internal network at this point, where does it go? Where does the traffic go? Well, I set up this wireless router, disabled DHCP. It's not actually acting as a router at this point. It's just basically acting as a 4-port switch and an wireless access point. So any physical machine connected to any of these cables, for those machines, and any machine connected to a wireless network that I created here, any machines connected like that, they think that, well, they are on my company's network. So how is that helpful? All right, so part of my responsibilities at my job, I create different ways of machines being, for the first setup. So how do I test, like, on initial setup of a machine out of the box and make it look like it was configured as just a standard normal machine? Well, one of the things that we do for even Macs and especially Windows machines, or for both, one of the things that we do is bind the machines. So there is no way that you can bind a machine on like initial setup if you're not actually in the network. So using this method, these machines bind to our AD from my house without needing to have the AnyConnect client installed first, because that is not part of the first setup procedure at work. So like the two major machines, platforms that we use at work, Mac and PCs. Macs are a little easier in this regard because we use Jamf. We use Jamf Cloud. So a lot of the software, is available anywhere because, it's part of the cloud. However, if it's not bound, it's not configured exactly the same as every other machine, and I cannot test different things on machines that are not exactly configured the same way as everybody else's. So this machine has been wiped multiple times because there were there's policies for updating the Catalina that I'm working on right now. I know it's a little late for that, but better late than never. That it works differently if you're inside the network or if you're outside the network of my company's network. So this is configured like every other machine, but I can wipe it out and refresh it, and it's perfectly done. PCs, on the other hand, that would be completely impossible if I was not in the building network or connected to the VPN, because we use case. And case imaging, we do not have that outside of our network at all. So what do? Well, here we go. I have made a boot USB with our case environment. I start up the machine with that, and it sees our case server internally, and it's configured and set up exactly like it would be within the network. Again, no AnyConnect client. There would be no way to actually start running the VPN client before the startup anyway at this point. So that is working 100% beautifully. One downside though, I was testing it on our largest image, and it's pretty large, and from beginning to end, with all the other software that's being installed at the end, it takes about, what is it, 6 hours, I think. It took a long time. It took a real long time, but I'm able to have machines here where, and the other thing too, if these machines are connected to the VPN through that created network right now, I can log in as anybody. I can authenticate as anybody and as AD, and without the credentials needing to be cached in the first place, without the initial start. So even if I was setting these up externally and not, and binding later on, there's no way for me to connect as an AD user at the login screen, because the VPN connection is not going to be there. It's not going to be able to connect to the VPN. So they're not going to be able to connect to the AD to authenticate. So I hope all of this makes sense, and it's really, really helpful right now. So if you have a situation like I do where, you need to set up machines that can't get the VPN client on first, there's a VPN gateway setup that you can use, and I just really, it's just working really nicely. So like I said, hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully I'm not too rambly. I know I am. Whatever. I just wanted to post this. So everybody stay safe and work from home if you can. Later.